When it comes to getting into hi-fi and eventually caving into the notion that regardless of how much you resist, you and I, or at least a good chunk of you fine folks, are indeed audiophiles.
Excuse me?
Yes, sir.
We're filming. Sorry, can we just...
Oh, I didn't see a camera. Oh, there it is.
That's right. No two ways about it. And while we certainly do love music, we also love the gear that we use to play our music. With this, some of the gear that we buy might seem straightforward to the average passerby, and some of the gear might raise a few eyebrows. Now, today's product, which is a CD transport, might fit in the latter camp, where some naysayers out there will tell you, if you think you can actually hear a difference with a CD transport, no, not a CD player, that's a totally different thing, but yes, a device that is literally just in charge of transporting digital information to a DAC, that you or I are completely bananas if we think we can hear any difference at all. And to that I say, before we dive into the CDT3, let's just take a brief moment and try to better understand the how behind a CD transport. This should give a little bit more context for those who need a little more than Ron says it's good, so it's good, and you know what? I totally respect that. Number one, reduced jitter. Jitter is a timing error in the digital signal. High-end CD transports often use precision clocks and advanced circuit designs to minimize jitter, resulting in a more stable and accurate digital signal, which can enhance the audio quality when decoded by the DAC. Number two, superior laser mechanisms. High-quality CD transports often include advanced laser mechanisms and error correction technologies. These ensure a more accurate reading of the CD, reducing data loss or errors that could degrade the sound. Number three, a better power supply. A robust power supply in a CD transport reduces electrical noise and ensures consistent performance. Clean power contributes to a purer digital signal and reduces the risk of interference with the DAC. Number four, isolation from vibrations. Premium CD transports often feature vibration dampening materials and designs. By minimizing mechanical vibrations during playback, they can reduce the potential for error in the signal read from the compact disc. Number five, dedicated digital output. A good CD transport focuses solely on extracting the digital data and sending it to the external DAC. This separation of functions allows for each component to excel in its specific task, potentially improving overall sound quality compared to an all-in-one CD player. So, there we have it. 5 examples, and there are many more, of the how behind a transport, and with a little better understanding of how these things can and will make a difference, let's dive into the CDT3 and explore how this transport actually sounds, even when compared to my own reference, which of course is the Innuos Zenith. Taking a look at the CDT3 from the front, we are greeted with a brushed aluminum faceplate, and getting this out of the way now, this entire machine is built like a tank. Even the circuit boards are embedded in aluminum pockets inside the machine to minimize crosstalk. The machined aluminum body takes care of vibrations, and with the back-breaking 50 freaking pounds, you will quickly realize that this much weight is the first key difference from your old dusty CD player that you bought from Best Buy. The layout of the buttons is familiar and straightforward, with power, pause, play, stop, previous, and next, all front and center. For the audiophile couch dwellers, the unit also comes with an aluminum remote with all the same functionality. It feels great in the hands, it is heavy, and it makes skipping track after track easy to do from a distance. On the business end of the CDT3, you will find all your digital outputs. As I've mentioned before, this is not a CD player, so there is no DAC inside this machine. Therefore, using the CDT3 requires connecting this to a DAC using one of these digital outputs. To the left, you will find first a bank of connectors which are used for external I/O master clock connections. To the right of this bank, you are greeted with a toggle for upsampling from 44.1 to 176.4 kilohertz. It is worth mentioning that while I did experiment with the toggle throughout the review, my preference was leaving the unit set to 44.1, and all of my listening impressions in today's video are based on that setting. Past the toggle, you will find I2S via HDMI and RJ45 connectors, coaxial via RCA and BNC, and AES EBU connections. Beyond the digital outputs, you will find an IEC inlet for power and a rocker switch for the mains power. Loading the CDT3 is easy with a door slot on top. When slid back, exposes us to the CD Pro 2 LF, which for those of us who have been around the audiophile block already know is certainly one of the undisputed champions when it comes to transport mechanisms. With the included CD clamp and the door being slid closed, the reader engages, and just like that, folks, we are ready to rock and roll. Firing up something tried and true and a track that I know like the back of my hand, Rise from Dominique Fils-Aimé's album Nameless, it didn't take long to notice that while subtle at first, the CDT3 has an easy to listen to presentation. Silky and smooth are the key words here, folks, and while there seemed to be perhaps just one more gear in some harmonic information that my Zenith was highlighting over the CDT3, I really appreciated just how elegant and refined this transport sounds. Being specific with my Zenith, I noticed just a tad more decay on the snare hits in the song Rise, and I also noticed a little bit more attack coming from the electric guitar. Now I'm going to say this, these observations are all about catching subtleties, and none of this should be blown out of proportion, but sure enough, as I made my way through a long list of CDs ranging from Jack Johnson all the way to Alice in Chains, the key differences in these two machines became more and more apparent. Almost always, the CDT3 put me more at ease, and almost always sounded less analytical and perhaps softer, as if slow-moving water has drifted over rocks for ages, leaving them perfectly smooth and refined. So, this is the first clue to take into consideration if you are thinking about the CDT3. Again, silky and smooth is part of the roller coaster ride when you decide to take this machine for a spin, and that, my friends, is not a bad thing at all. In fact, most listeners that I chat with, either in the comments section or through emails, are almost always after a more relaxed and smooth presentation and are willing to part with some detail in order to get there. Now, I like to be careful here. I'm not saying that the CDT3 isn't detailed, nor am I saying that it's warm sounding or missing fireworks. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that the CDT3 just seems to do a great job at unpacking details while sounding comfortable and at ease. With the voicing of this transport being so well behaved, it didn't surprise me at all when it comes to its staging capabilities that this is not the type of nonsense that is forward or in your face. As you folks already know, I am always paying close attention to the attributes of the stage, and compared to my trusty Zenith, the CDT3 placed every single instrument in their right place. This is a massive check mark for me. It's also important to note that with the CDT3, the depth and the width of the presentation is every bit as expansive as my reference system. Trying something like the Appeal from the album Heretics by the Toadies, it dawned on me that the reach of the tambourine was anchored in the exact same location as with my Zenith. The reason why this is worth mentioning is there are times when some gear can indeed alter or change our perception of where things are in the mix, and in this case with the CDT3, the placement of information was always perfect and it always sounded correct to me. Last, dynamics and slam are all accounted for with the CDT3 as well, and while it might be hard to imagine that a CD transport making any difference in this department, I decided to investigate and throw a curveball into the mix, and I plugged in just a cheap little DVD player into my system, and I ran the digital output into my DAC. Not only was there a noticeable downgrade in resolution, details, and staging, but I couldn't believe how flat, two-dimensional, and lifeless my system sounded just by changing out the transport. Going back to my Zenith and trying to come up with a clear dynamic winner of the two between it and the CDT3 was more of a challenge, but it was easy to hear the difference when comparing it to an everyday DVD or CD player, which I know a lot of you folks might actually be running right now, and I'm telling you right now, you are missing out on a lot of fun. So, folks, this solidified what I have already learned over the years on this channel and something that I've talked about a lot, and without a doubt, your source or the beginning of your chain, it matters. And my goodness, it matters a lot. For today's sound clips, I'll need to do something a bit different. Since playing most CDs is likely to get flagged, I've decided to switch things up. I've already prepared a second video with the audio samples for you to hear. Additionally, I've embedded direct download links to the uncompressed clips straight from the recorder for those who want to bypass YouTube's compression. For this test, I recorded a sample of the song Rise by Dominic Fils-Aimé using the CDT3 and of course my Zenith. The recorded clips come directly from the DAC into my recorder, so this setup offers a fair comparison, or as fair of a comparison as possible. So here's what you need to do. You either download the samples below from the Google Drive links or click the card in the upper right corner of this video to watch the uploaded video with the clips. It's important to note, the Google Drive download is of the complete song, so you will need to make the comparisons yourself, but the uploaded video is already edited and sliced for you like we typically do. Either way, take a moment to listen, jot down your thoughts, and I will meet you guys in the final thoughts. So what did you guys hear? I'm curious, leave your comments down below. You did a comparison of the CDT3 and the Zenith. Could you tell them apart? And if so, are the differences that you heard for yourself, does it match up or align with what I have said throughout this review? I'm curious. Comments down below. Either way, look, the deeper into the rabbit hole of hi-fi we go, it seems to me there is always something new to learn and something to take away. Everything in our playback chain matters, and if you still have a CD collection or you want to get the most out of all the CDs that you own, the Jays Audio CDT3 is obviously a no-brainer. With a silky smooth sound that's holographic, wide, and deep, soundstage lovers will play the heck out of this machine and have zero regrets for pulling the trigger. While I can't break away from the flexibility that my Zenith offers and slightly preferred its more detailed and articulate rendering of the music over this fine transport, it's still a compelling piece and easy to recommend for those who couldn't care less about streaming. And with that, I'll see you Jays Audio loving audiophiles in the next video.